Welcome to your Houston Rewind for January 9th through the 13th. I'm KHOU 11 digital anchor Brandy Smith. Schedules are mostly back to normal after the holidays, and we know it is tough to keep up on all the Houston headlines. So every weekend we take this opportunity to fill you in on some of the stories you may have missed. Let's rewind. The man seen on camera shooting a robbery suspect in a Houston restaurant met with investigators Monday afternoon. Prosecutors say a grand jury will decide what happens next. Matt Doherty took a closer look at the criminal past of the man who was killed.
30-year-old Eric Washington was out on bond when he held up the El Ranchito taqueria last week with a fake gun. Almost 10 years ago, he was convicted in a deadly armed robbery. That time, he used a real gun. The final minutes of Eric Washington's life show him wearing a mask, moving throughout the restaurant, waving a fake gun, telling frightened customers to give him their cash. He appears to have finished collecting their money and turns toward the entrance of the taqueria. Behind him, this 46-year-old unidentified patron pulls out his real gun and takes aim. He shoots Washington 9 times, killing him. After meeting with the man who shot Washington, police say a grand jury will decide if he responded unlawfully. Court records show the robbery suspect Eric Washington has a criminal past. Back in 2013, Washington and others were charged with capital murder after a man was killed during an armed robbery, prosecutors claimed. The charge against Washington was later changed to aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon. He was convicted, and a jury sentenced him to 15 years in prison. It's unclear when exactly he was released, but we know the most recent time he was arrested was last month. On December 16th, a woman who prosecutors say was dating Washington told police he pushed her to the ground and scratched her. Washington was charged with misdemeanor family violence and released on a personal recognizance bond. Less than 1 month later, he was dead. In West Houston, I'm Matt Doherty, KHOU 11 News.
Later in the week, an attorney representing the customer released a statement on his behalf. It said in part, in Texas, a shooting is justified in self-defense, defense of others, and in defense of property. The customer has met with the Harris County District Attorney's Office and investigators with HPD homicide. He fully intends to continue cooperating with the ongoing investigation. The statement continued, saying the shooting will burden that customer for the rest of his life. You can read the full statement on KHOU.com. The Houston Texans said goodbye to another head coach after yet another losing season. The team announced it parted ways with Lovie Smith after just one season. Daniel Gutera got reaction from the team on Monday.
Another year, another disappointment here off Kirby, and inside NRG Stadium earlier today, the players were cleaning out their lockers, once again having to answer questions about a coaching change, their third in 3 seasons. Now, they didn't win much, but they did respect Lovie Smith, and now they are left to wonder what the front office will do as they look for yet another man to lead this organization.
It was just one message: it's a winning culture. We got to win.
The business of the NFL is not for the faint of heart. These players know that all too well.
It's part of the game. We've been here before. At this point, I just got to move forward.
Lovie Smith hoped his veteran style would help. Now he joins the growing list of men being paid by the Texans to not coach their team.
You know, this year has been what it is. There's been a lot of adversity.
It was my 4th year. I had 4 head coaches over those 4 years. You know, it's a lot, but I just try to be steady, try to, improve, every year.
The future, once again, up in the air. Everyone inside this building hoping the powers that be finally get this thing right.
A lot of trust in Nick and Cal to bring in really successful guys who are going to put our franchise in the right direction.
As for the guys that new coach will lead, well, one of the players that probably won't be here is wide receiver Brandon Cooks. He point blank said this morning he doesn't plan on being a part of a rebuild again. Let's see if Nick Caserio can execute a trade during the offseason, something that he couldn't do during the regular season.
Education, awareness, hope. Those are a few of the reasons a number of ex-cons are sharing their stories on TikTok, cultivating a discussion about what life is like behind bars and on the other side. First, I kind of want to break down how TikTok works for people who don't use the app. So you can find videos about just about anything on it. There's DIY talk, there's book talk, There is news talk, and yeah, prison talk.
Hi, I'm Carrie, and I built a career out of going to prison.
I was writing a story about prison TikTok, and in the course of reporting that story, decided to make a few, and then it sort of took off.
That's Carrie Blakinger, a former reporter at the Houston Chronicle, now working for the Marshall Project, a nonprofit that focuses on criminal justice issues, soon to join the LA Times.
I was like, oh, this is cool, I'll keep doing this. And then I actually met the whole group and realized that this is actually a good friend group.
The first full weekend of 2023, that group got together. Blakinger, Marcy Simmons, Morgan Godvin, Ian Bick, Cass Michelle, Jesse Crosson, and Michael Galloway served well more than 50 years. Now they have a collective of more than 2 million followers, some of whom showed up for a meet and greet at the Gypsy Poet in Midtown.
I'm glad to meet people that share that same vision, that goal, for prison reform, for second chances. That's the Walls unit. It's freaking hot, man.
On TikTok and offline, Galloway shares his experience with the criminal justice system, which started when he was 12 and ended when he spent 8 years in prison for criminally negligent homicide.
I want to do everything that I can to prevent other people from making the same mistakes that I did.
That's part of my history, and it's part of my story, but it's not my whole story.
Marcy Simmons started her TikTok account to explain where she'd been for 11 years.
Because people mess up, y'all.
And to break down the stigma associated with serving time.
I hope to give courage to other people to share their story and to know that that's okay. You don't have to define yourself with your past.
More than 260,000 people follow her, including Rosie O'Donnell.
We're working on a show, and it's about my story coming out of prison and the family dynamics of rebuilding relationships with my children, my family. The best part of it, though, is that it's going to have flashbacks of my time in prison, and that show is going to give an accurate portrayal of a Texas women's prison, and that story needs to be heard.
Online, Simmons often answers questions from viewers and even shares prison recipes.
I'm going to show you the prison version of tamales that we made in there.
But her goal is to be a voice for people who are incarcerated, especially women.
When you're incarcerated, you don't have that, and you have a feeling that nobody out here cares, and we're just trying to change that.
Every time that we're sharing our stories and that there's a different group of people who can put a face to a felony, I think that changes how people perceive us.
Blakinger, whose book Corrections in Ink came out last year and whose post-prison career has involved reporting on the criminal justice system, says she's learned from prison talk too.
But I think the bigger thing is that it's been so great for me on a personal level to have this group of friends who understands what it's like to do time, but also understands what it's like to be very public about all of these aspects of your life and to have this very, public social media presence.
What defines who I am and what defines who these other prison TikTok creators are is what they did after the fact, if they made mistakes.
As Blakinger shared in this tweet, they're running gyms, writing books, making podcasts, founding nonprofits, and making lots and lots of TikToks.
If you guys have questions about women's prison, we have 3 women who did time in different prison systems.
If you want to follow any of these creators, we've linked their profiles in this article on KHOU.com. By the way, you can follow me on there too. I'm at Brandy News. Galveston police say 2 men who overdosed and died on Christmas Day knew each other. And Tuesday, officers announced the arrest of the man they say sold fentanyl-laced cocaine to the men. Sherman Chow broke down how investigators tracked the suspect down.
Galveston police say at 7:19 p.m. on Christmas Day, crews responded to apartments in the 8300 block of Seawald Boulevard to find 30-year-old Vadim Burka unconscious. About 20 minutes later, they found 34-year-old Dmitry Godovsky also unconscious. He was in the bathroom at the Rainforest Cafe. Both men were on work visas from Eastern Europe and died at the hospital. Each was in possession of cocaine in these distinctive bags, which later tested positive for fentanyl.
Vadim Burka and Dmitry Godovsky were both reported to be acquaintances and attended the same holiday gathering at the 8300 block of Seawald Boulevard. Investigators quickly mobilized and began linking the 2 cases and determined that both Vadim and Godovsky purchased narcotics from the same supplier.
10 days later, on January 5th, authorities arrested 23-year-old Patrick Miller, who has a prior drug conviction. He now faces 2 counts of manufacture and delivery of a controlled substance.
You have these counterfeit pills out there looking like Oxycontin, looking like Xanax, and you may be taking something that you think will only give you a high for 30 minutes or 1 hour, but actually can put you to sleep for the rest of your life.
Dealers cut drugs with the cheaper but much deadlier fentanyl, causing the surge in synthetic opioid deaths. The CDC reports more than 71,000 people died from fentanyl overdoses in 2021. Tuesday, a judge denied bond for the man accused of setting not 1, but 2 fires in a single week. Pablo Patino was already out on bond before an intense SWAT standoff at his Spring home. Janelle Bluto reported his time in court is just beginning.
For the first time since he was arrested last week after climbing out of his burning home in Spring, 27-year-old Pablo Patino was in court.
We went ahead and filed a motion for the judge to deny him bail on one of his new arson cases.
A judge granted that motion denying bond for Patino after hearing testimony from his wife, who told the judge that Patino set her parents' house on fire before he tried to hit her with his car. Prosecutors also presented evidence.
We were able to show Judge videos of Mr. Patino lighting Nia Patino's parents' house on fire with her and her daughter and the rest of her family asleep inside.
Patino's older sister also testified today in court, asking for bail for Patino, saying the person seen in the video isn't consistent with her brother. Patino was first arrested December 26 for a domestic violence charge after allegedly pushing his wife. He bonded out, but last Tuesday, police say he went to his in-laws' home where his wife was staying, lit the home on fire, and then tried to run over his wife with his car. 2 days later, constables say his wife wanted to go to their home in Spring to get clothes. Officers went in first to clear the home and say they found Patino inside. He allegedly threatened officers with a weapon and barricaded himself inside. SWAT teams arrived on scene, and police say that's when Patino set his own home on fire and eventually surrendered.
For her to listen and hold them at no bond to make sure that they were safe, it really meant a lot to them.
Patino faces 6 charges relating to all 3 incidents, including assault of a family member, arson, and making a terroristic threat. On the first day of the 2023 legislative session, school superintendents voiced their wish lists. Jason Miles explained Tuesday why teacher pay is front and center as lawmakers meet.
Now leading the state's 8th largest school district after decades in education,
I've been in the trenches in this work.
Fort Bend ISD Superintendent Dr. Christy Whitbeck has never seen a more robust Texas legislature surplus.
Never have we entered a legislative session with this amount of excess funding.
Funding she considers worth funneling to ISDs that in many cases face significant budget cuts, although Whitbeck realizes lawmakers have their own priorities.
But at the same time, we are in a nationwide teacher shortage. So if we're ever going to offer incentives, if we're going to offer special things to help teachers become certified, if we're going to think out of the box and really work to make sure our classrooms are filled with quality teachers, this is the time.
Teacher recruitment and retention is at the top of Whitbeck's legislative wish list, which, like in other ISDs, her board recently approved. Not only would Dr. Whitbeck like to boost teacher pay, but per pupil funding. Right now it stands at $6,100 per student. She'd like, ideally, to see it at $7,000. Whitbeck and many superintendents would like to see that per student allotment based on enrollment rather than daily attendance as it is presently done, since things like unexpected illness or temporary absences take a toll.
I'm going to hire the custodians for the amount of children and square footage I have. I'm going to hire the teachers for the amount of children, not doing it based on how many are there on a given day.
Whitbeck plans to personally lobby lawmakers in Austin on issues that also include charter school equity and standardized test reductions.
We need to partner. That's what this should really be about.
Keeping students, she says, at the forefront of every discussion. In Sugar Land, Jason Miles, KHOU 11 News.
How far would you go to protect your business? Wednesday, Matt Doherty met with several Houston restaurant and bar owners who are sleeping inside their businesses to keep an eye on them.
The owners told me they never imagined they'd have to spend every night waiting in their bars with guns for burglars. Glitter Karaoke in Midtown plays host to a party almost every night of the week. But after 2 a.m., when the music has stopped and all the singers have gone home, others have been breaking their way into the bar.
We've been broken into 6 times now.
6 times?
Yep.
Surveillance cameras capture what's been happening at Todd Jones's karaoke bar while he's at home, asleep.
And they're coming in and they're grabbing as many bottles as they can, throwing it in their bag, and they're out. Right now, my windows are broken because it's like, man, I don't even want to fix them, and I have to get them done again in the next couple of days.
Jones estimates thieves have cost him more than $20,000 so far.
At some point, you don't even want to claim it on your insurance because, I mean, I don't want to lose my insurance, so you kind of just fix it yourself.
The tiredness in his eyes are from the restless nights at the bar, where he now sleeps until daylight just to protect his property.
You don't know what to do anymore. You can't do anything. And it's almost like, well, what's the point of even trying?
Jones is far from alone.
It's hard work, but it's rewarding. And now it's a nightmare.
Raul Jacobo, owner of Cobo's Barbecue and Bar in Edo, has to sleep at his place every night now, too.
I mean, bottom line, we're tired.
His surveillance cameras show what's been happening.
On Tuesday, he comes in through the front door, throws a brick through our front glass door with a military-style sack. And he knows exactly where to go, and he cleans us out like on all our liquor.
After his bar was hit in less than 2 weeks, he hardly gets to leave his business. Instead of asleep at home with his wife, he's in the back office with a gun.
If we feel, vulnerable or whatever it is, terrified for our lives, and we have to do what we have to do, it's on the city's hands.
The owners say police respond each time there's a break-in, but so far, nothing has been able to stop them.
We're literally 1 street away from a substation, and we have a criminal that is breaking in twice in 4 days and doesn't care about any consequence.
Raul says he's an advocate for police and thinks they're doing what they can. But even the time Todd caught a burglar himself, he says it didn't put an end to their crimes.
He took off running when he saw us. We ran him down.
And detained him?
Yeah, we detained him, and police got there. He had his bag with all his tools in it, his ski mask, and next thing you know, I found out he was out the next day.
Houston police tell me they are actively investigating these cases. Detectives are. They're also telling me that they've increased patrols in the area during peak hours. They say they're collaborating with the owners of these bars to try to identify and locate these suspects.
Houston's top cop says violent crime is down 8% citywide in 2022 compared to 2021. Police Chief Troy Finner briefed the City Council on those numbers Wednesday. Adam Bennett dug into the numbers.
Nearly every time you turn on the TV or scroll through your phone,
but the people are coming and showing gun and robbing.
There's some story about someone being targeted by criminals.
When I got back, my driver's side window was busted out.
Even city council members aren't immune.
I was a victim of it on Saturday night. My truck was stolen outside my house.
Though auto thefts were up 11% last year, Police Chief Troy Finner told City Council members this morning violent crime was down in almost every category. From 2021 to 2022, the number of reported murders and robberies were both down 9%, aggravated assaults down 8%, and rapes down 18%. Though Houston and other major cities saw crime spike during the pandemic, reported robberies and sexual assaults in 2022 were lower than 2019 levels. Chief Finner credited the mayor's $53 million crime reduction effort called One Safe Houston.
Violence interruption plans, dealing with our mental illness, domestic violence response.
Assistant Chief Wyatt Martin says more than 300 automatic license plate reader cameras and counting deployed across Houston have helped recover stolen vehicles.
We use those stolen cars to commit robberies and other crimes. So we're potentially getting ahead of other violent criminal activity that may take place.
This year, Chief Finner wants to see more cameras and more action, clearing Harris County's massive criminal court backlog.
We will need judges to participate too, so we don't need the revolving door.
Councilmember Abby Kamen also asked for more specific data looking at how many violent crimes involve guns or domestic violence. Mayor Turner called on state lawmakers to use some of their nearly $33 billion budget surplus toward transformative funding for mental health. The price of eggs is sky high right now. We're talking more than $5 a dozen in some places. Marcelino Benito examined why those prices are going up on Wednesday.
Eggs are natural and economical.
That 1978 egg jingle doesn't ring true anymore. The price of eggs higher than ever before.
We're going to see these high egg prices for a while. Supply problem driven by the disease.
Experts say the culprit is avian influenza.
Once that disease started, we went from roughly 327 million egg-laying chickens to, by June, about 299 million.
And the industry is still trying to recover. It's happening at the grocery store.
Yeah, it's affecting a lot of people. They're noticing it, they're seeing it, and they're feeling it.
But it's also being felt.
Almost everything we have has eggs.
At Houston's Three Brothers Bakery.
There is no substitute for eggs, though.
They're juggling to manage the exorbitant price of their most important supply. They go through 750 pounds of eggs every week.
This is where we keep our eggs.
30-pound cases of eggs used to cost them just over $36 last January. This year, they're paying almost $112 per case, a more than 200% increase.
Nothing quite like this. This is just monumental as far as increases go.
It's costing them nearly $1,900 more per week in eggs alone. So far, they've avoided raising prices, but the longer this goes, the harder that will be. They may even consider slimming down the menu and selection at the bakery.
This probably has the most eggs in it.
Owner Bobby Jucker says the impacts will be even tougher on smaller businesses.
I think we're going to see a lot of people go out of business this year because of these price increases.
Now is your chance to help aspiring college students reach their dreams of getting a higher education. Donate to the Greater Houston Frontiers Club, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Scholarship Fund. It's as simple as pointing your phone at the QR code that is on your screen right now. Every dollar makes a difference. KHOU 11 is a proud partner in the scholarship fund, and together we're looking to raise $70,000 in scholarship money. Wednesday, Brittany Ford showed us how your donation can help invest in a teen's future.
2021.
19-year-old Ashton Parker graduated from Westfield High School in spring. He's now a sophomore at
Southern University and A&M College in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Studying computer science to be a software engineer, a dream made possible.
The moment that I got the scholarship, I was really excited. We was actually sitting in choir rehearsal at church.
By a moment he'll never forget.
I looked at my mom and said, "Look, I got the scholarship."
Parker was a recipient of the Greater Houston Frontier Club's Martin Luther King Jr. Scholarship Fund as a senior in 2021. The youngest of 6, most who went on to college. Parker says his parents, Catherine and Terrence, pushed him to seek out scholarships to help teach him financial responsibility. What he got?
Less worry or debt to major in computer science, but it also has given me the opportunity to connect with peers and others.
And the name might sound familiar. Parker's older sister, Trinity, was also awarded the scholarship in 2018, profiled by KHOU 11 last week. An investment that's touched a family.
This scholarship has also motivated me to keep going in college.
Already showing its return.
Because the sky isn't the limit, it's further beyond.
Brittany Ford, KHOU 11 News.
A big name could be making the move to the Houston area. Tesla is headquartered in Austin, but it looks like owner Elon Musk wants to expand to Brookshire. On Thursday, Jason Miles visited the community off I-10 where Amazon, Costco, Medline, even Domino's Pizza all have big facilities already.
In an area west of Katy dominated for decades by the rice industry,
we've seen some great progress, enormous progress.
New development is flourishing.
Between here and Fulshire and Katy, it's all growth.
Andrew Perry runs Houston Executive Airport and is past president of the I-10 West Chamber of Commerce. He also sits on Waller County's Economic Development Board.
When we started the Houston Executive Airport in 2006, it was just the Igloo plant. Igloo was here first, we were here second.
Among Perry's future neighbors may be Elon Musk-owned Tesla, which made Austin its world headquarters just last year. Now the electric vehicle maker is reportedly on track to occupy more than 1 million square feet at the Empire West Business Park at I-10 and Woods Road. In fact, I found Tesla jobs already being advertised on LinkedIn. The location, Brookshire, Texas.
Could Elon Musk fly into here someday?
He could absolutely fly in here. I'd love to have Elon fly in here. Him and all of his buddies can come.
Tesla did not respond to requests for comment, and landlord/developer Stream Realty Partners isn't confirming the deal, but added in a statement, quote, "We are, though, encouraged by our leasing success at Empire West and look forward to securing users for the remaining available space." Space for further growth out here seems to be plentiful, as well as in demand.
Perry says really big deals are often done under the radar, while potential incentives and other issues are worked out. One Brookshire resident told Jason she hopes Musk won't get too much of a break. Casinos and sports betting companies are making a big push in Texas this year. And Thursday, House Speaker Dade Phelan told reporters he believes voters would approve expanded gaming. Adam Bennett shared this legislative session, lawmakers and lobbyists are feeling lucky.
First, it was horse racing in the 80s, then the lottery in the 90s. Now, supporters of expanding gambling in Texas are hoping to hit the jackpot in 2023. House Speaker Dade Phelan told reporters in Austin he's open to the idea. He said, quote, "I want to see destination-style casinos that are high quality and that create jobs and that improve the lifestyle of those communities."
It's pretty stunning that we're seeing leaders in Texas leaning towards allowing for there to be legalized gambling. It's something the state has fought against for a long time.
But Brendan Rottinghouse with UH says there are two big differences now: more states legalizing gaming and a huge number of gambling lobbyists in Texas.
A lot of that is going to pay off over time because they've got the influence, they've got the information, they've got the expertise. Whether they're believed or not and whether what they're saying is totally true or not is still up for debate.
Supporters say Texans would be spending big money that they're already gambling in surrounding states. But opponents say those revenue projections are overblown. They also worry about crime and addiction increases.
The dialogue, the debate.
Democratic State Senator Carol Alvarado of Houston filed a bill proposing a constitutional amendment to legalize casino and sports betting. She told me, quote, "I am encouraged by Speaker Phelan's support for giving Texans a chance to approve destination-style casinos in our state." But many believe the biggest hurdle will be the Texas Senate, led by Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick.
He seems like he's lightened his stance on it a little bit, but it's going to take a lot more than just one session for him to move in that direction.
Any gambling expansion would need approval by 2/3 of lawmakers in both the House and Senate. Texas voters would have the final say in a constitutional amendment election. Just a reminder, our KHOU 11 team is keeping an eye on the Capitol, sharing the very latest out of this legislative session. You can find all our coverage on KHOU.com, on our mobile app, or on our streaming app, KHOU 11+. Houston knows a little something about traveling to the moon, but what about building on it? NASA awarded a contract to a Texas company planning to do just that. Janelle Bluda explained Thursday that'll involve some out-of-this-world 3D printing.
The moon is nearly 240,000 miles away. For perspective, in that distance, you could circle our planet 9 times and still have 15,000 miles to go. So the task of getting to the moon has been incredible enough. But what about building on it?
In the next phase of the Artemis program, after we've successfully landed humans on the surface of the moon, the goal is to establish a sustained presence on the surface of the moon.
Through a $57 million contract with NASA, Icon, a company out of Austin, is working to do just that, to put a broad spectrum of infrastructure
to produce things like landing pads and roads and blast shields and shelters and habitats
on the moon, which isn't the easiest place to build.
You need to be able to protect the astronauts from the lunar environment, which is really a nasty place to live and work. Vacuum environment, extreme temperature swings, radiation environment, micrometeoroids.
Corky Clinton with NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center says Icon will now work to build a 3D printing robotic arm that will be sent to the moon to do the construction, but can be controlled from Earth.
Can work day and night, day and night, day and night, to continue to build the infrastructure without the presence of astronauts.
And there's a sample of some of Icon's work already at NASA. Last year, they 3D printed this, a 1,700 square foot simulated Martian habitat that's being used here on Earth as a training module for astronauts.
Astronauts that will actually spend a year in that habitat like they're on the surface of Mars.
Starting this summer, 4 astronauts will live and work inside that module for a year as a test run for future missions on Mars. In Houston, Janelle Bluda, KHOU 11 News.
KHOU 11 first introduced you to Icon in our Living in the Lone Star series. You can hear from its founder about how his childhood on the Texas Gulf Coast inspired him to create a new kind of home construction. Those stories are available now on the KHOU 11 YouTube channel. Just look for the Living in the Lone Star playlist. No doubt if you've seen this building smack dab in the middle of Sugar Land Town Square, you've wondered about the Department of Wonder.
It's such a new and interesting concept that no one has really ever tried before.
I met theatrical manager Kevin Holden inside the Lamp Maker's Emporium.
My friends, my name is Ferris.
The first stop on your journey here.
We guide them a little bit, like when you come into this shop, you'll get some guidance. And then after that, we kind of cut you loose and you're released into this new realm.
Released and immersed in an experience unlike anything I've ever done before. Same for my teenagers.
For the most part, this is your adventure. You get to pick what you do. You have to decide what your next action is going to be.
Solving riddles, crawling through tunnels, going on missions, talking to this realm's inhabitants.
This isn't my uncle's journal.
It's part theater, it's part video game, it's part movie, it's part escape room, it's part choose your own adventure book. You remember those?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of all those things with a lot of other things that only came into existence because this thing became into existence.
It's the creation of a team of storytellers, animators, designers, and producers focused on digital and interactive entertainment.
There's a whole lot of making stuff up going on around here.
Caught on camera what Humble ISD calls unacceptable behavior from a teacher who put his hands on a student. The district is investigating, but says it's unlikely that teacher will return even when the investigation is complete. Gerald Harris heard from the student's family and community leaders on Friday.
The family of a 16-year-old Humble High School 10th grader is asking for answers and demanding justice after video shows a teacher placing his hands on the student.
I don't want this teacher to be able to teach nowhere in this state or in this country for that matter, to be able to go somewhere and be able to have the opportunity to do this ever again to another student.
Parents say during the end of the school day, students were in a joint classroom with a substitute and the teacher seen here. They allege the teacher pulled the student's chair from beneath him.
No child should be having his hands, having a teacher who is supposed to be teaching and protecting him, slang him all over the room like he a rag doll.
Video provided by the father shows the teacher in purple pushing the student into chairs and desks. Then eventually the student is shoved up against the wall as students gather around to try to break up the altercation. The sophomore student then asks why the teacher is pushing and touching him. The teacher is seen with his hands around the child's shoulder and neck area. Eventually, the two go to the ground with the teacher over the student. Humble ISD released a statement on Wednesday that said the teacher was helping out in another classroom when he used physical force to try to get a student to take a seat and listen, adding these actions are unacceptable and contrary to standards and expectations for all employees.
Bro, for what, bro?
The family says they're taking legal action.
Just to let it be known, we're not just flapping our lips, talking loud and saying nothing like James Brown said. We going out there with legal actions.
One of the oldest sports bars in Houston burned early Friday morning. Griffs Irish Sports Pub has been in Montrose since 1965. Stephanie Whitfield talked to neighbors about this loss.
After more than 50 years in business, Griffs is gone. At least it is for now. Neighbors have been coming by all morning in disbelief. Griffs has been serving customers in Montrose for decades. The sign outside says it's Texas's oldest Irish sports pub. Thanks to an overnight fire, it's a total loss.
I was actually just driving home and I saw the fire trucks and I just gasped oh no, not Griffs. It's been such a huge part of the neighborhood.
Firefighters say the bar was engulfed in flames when they got to the scene just before 4 a.m. The fire seems to have started at the front of the building. The wind made it tougher to put out.
The age of the building made it more difficult and just more dangerous for the firefighters. We want to be cautious in this type of building in the middle of the night.
Arson investigators say the fire appears accidental, but the cause is still unknown.
My dad used to come here when he was 21. He used to come here. So yeah, it's been part of Houston for a really long time.
From trivia nights to St. Patrick's Day parties, neighbors say Griffs has been a staple in the community. They're sad to see this piece of Houston history go.
You go inside and you just know that the people that work there just love sports, and it's kind of like Cheers. Like when you go in there, there's regulars that I'm sure are going to be real heartbroken finding out about this.
The owners of Griffs have been here since before dawn. They tell us they're in shock, still trying to process what happened. One of the owners also told us she does plan to rebuild, but for now she's most concerned about being able to take care of her employees.
Hope that helped you catch up on this past week and you are ready for the next one. Remember, you can tune into KHOU 11 on air, online via KHOU.com and YouTube, as well as by using our KHOU 11 Plus app on Roku and Fire TV. Have a great week.